6:17 with Mark Carter at breakfast on a Thursday morning. So the most significant Commons defeat since David Cameron became Prime Minister. 53 Tory Eurosceptics defied the government last night to vote for a cut in the European Union budget. And in an unlikely alliance, they were supported by Labour MPs. One of those rebels was Henry Smith, the MP for Crawley. Morning to you, Henry.
Good morning, Mark.
Why go against your government, and why did you take this course of action?
Well, I don't think I can look my constituents in the eye and say that while budgets are having to be reduced domestically here at home, and indeed are having to be reduced in other member countries of the EU as well, that we should be increasing the budget of the European Union centrally. It is a wasteful, remote, inefficient and increasingly undemocratic organisation. And I think if we're having to make savings here at home, then the European Union should have to make savings itself.
Can you look David Cameron in the eye, though?
Yes, I certainly can, because I think we have strengthened the Prime Minister's hand.
You've embarrassed him, haven't you?
To Europe.
You've absolutely embarrassed him.
I think we've strengthened his hand because he can now go to those negotiations in Europe about the future of the EU budget and say the British Parliament has clearly spoken across the board that we feel the EU has to reduce its spending just like everybody else is having to do.
Right, let me read you a couple of...
Whether it's the home budget around the kitchen table or whether it's our domestic budgets, we all have to live within our means.
Well, look at the front page headlines this morning. The Daily Mail, Tory Euro rebels humiliate Cameron. The Times, Cameron humiliated on eve of EU budget. Nightmare on Downing Street for the newspaper. It doesn't sound like you've strengthened his arm at all.
Well, I would disagree. I mean, I think there is a clear message now coming from the British people and the British Parliament to the European Union in that enough is enough. And as one of my colleagues put it last night, some people around Surrey and West Sussex this winter will be making a tough decision as to whether they can buy new shoes for their children. And yet the Eurocrats are making decisions as to whether they buy more Mercedes. So it really is a point that the European Union needs to get with reality, and that is the message that we have clearly sent not only to Downing Street but also to Brussels as well.
Just very briefly, is the Conservative Party ever going to agree on Europe?
Well, I think the Conservative Party is pretty united on Europe. What we have is a coalition government, not a Conservative government. And, of course, the Liberal Democrat element of the government is very pro-EU, almost at any cost. And I think the Conservative position is much more pragmatic on Europe. And actually, the rank and file of most Conservative members of Parliament and members of the party is that we need a more democratic Europe. We need more power coming back to member nations, and Europe needs to live within its means.
All right. Thank you, Henry Smith, for coming on to the programme this morning. Henry Smith, the Conservative MP for Crawley.